Okay, we need to talk about histamine. But I want you to just forget everything you think you know, especially about allergies. Because we're about to dive into the story of a chemical that's basically a double agent inside our own bodies.
So, does this sound familiar to you? You're having a really nice meal, maybe some aged cheese, a great glass of red wine, and then boom, suddenly you're dealing with a splitting headache, your face gets all flushed, or maybe something even worse. If that's you, you've probably gone down the rabbit hole online and heard the culprit is histamine intolerance. And look, it's a super popular theory, but the actual science behind it? Well, that story is way, way stranger. And honestly, a lot more interesting. All right, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of the science, let's just start with the mystery itself. I mean, what are people actually experiencing that makes this whole thing so confusing? And what's so wild is just the sheer range of symptoms. I mean, look at this. We're talking about everything from skin issues like hives to gut problems to headaches, even mood disorders. And you can see why this is a mystery, right? When you blame one single thing for all of these different issues, it becomes almost impossible for doctors to pin down. So, the common explanation you'll hear for all this is histamine intolerance. But I really want you to notice that one little word there, presumed. Because that's what it is. It's a theory, an idea about how our bodies might be reacting to the histamine we get from food. Okay, so how is this presumed intolerance even supposed to work? Well, the popular theory is actually pretty simple to grasp. It's usually explained with this really handy analogy, the full bucket. All right, here's the idea. Imagine a bucket. The histamine you eat from food starts filling it up. Now, your body has this enzyme, DAO, and its job is to keep emptying the bucket. But, and here's the catch, if you're supposedly deficient in DAO, the enzyme just can't keep up. So the bucket overflows, and that's when you get symptoms. I mean, it makes a lot of sense on the surface, doesn't it? And that's exactly why this theory is so popular. It feels so familiar, right? It sounds almost exactly like lactose intolerance. We all get that one. You don't have enough of the lactase enzyme, so you have problems with dairy. So it just feels totally logical that not having enough of the DAO enzyme would cause problems with histamine. But, as neat and logical as all that sounds, this is where our story takes a pretty sharp turn. Because when scientists actually put this full bucket theory to the test, well, the evidence starts to get a little shaky. And this right here is the heart of the problem. When researchers actually try to prove a direct cause and effect link, you eat histamine, you get these specific symptoms. The proof just isn't there. It's not consistent, the results are all over the place. And get this is a huge piece of the puzzle. In a recent study, right, they gave patients a placebo, basically a sugar pill with nothing in it. But they told them it might have histamine. And a staggering 75%, three-quarters of them, reported having symptoms. That tells you that for a lot of people, there's something much more complex going on here than just a simple reaction to food. It's also really, really important that we separate this idea of intolerance from something that's very real, which is histamine intoxication. That's an actual recognized medical condition. Think of it like a specific kind of food poisoning you get from spoiled fish that has crazy high histamine levels. It would make anybody sick. They are absolutely not the same thing. So you put all that together, the inconsistent evidence, the huge placebo effect, the confusion with actual intoxication, and you can see why, as of right now, histamine intolerance just isn't an officially recognized diagnosis. The scientific proof just isn't solid enough yet. Okay, so if that whole food and enzyme story is shaky, what are we missing here? Well, so far we've only been talking about histamine as this thing that comes from the outside. It's time to reveal its secret identity. And this right here changes the entire game. Histamine isn't just some invader in your wine and cheese. It's a powerful neurotransmitter, a critical chemical messenger that your own body produces for some incredibly important jobs. This is the double agent we were talking about. I mean, just look at its resume. This stuff is regulating your sleep-wake cycle up in your brain. It's the main chemical that triggers allergic responses. That's the one we all know. It's a key messenger in your gut and a major player in your immune system. We're talking about a seriously powerful substance that our own bodies make. Okay, so now we can start to connect the dots in a new way. The real story here might not be about food at all. It might be about this incredibly complex conversation happening between our brain, our gut, and our immune system. So this brings us back to the big question, right? We know the symptoms people are feeling are absolutely real. And now we know that histamine is this powerful messenger inside our bodies. So, what is the real connection here?
Okay, check this out. This is where things get really interesting. This data comes from a pilot study, and just look at that jump. In the general population, you see markers for histamine issues in maybe 1 to 3% of people. But in a group of patients with anxiety disorders, that number skyrockets to over 35%. Now, that is a massive correlation.
But, and this is so important to remember, this is just a pilot study. We have to be really clear about what this means. It shows a correlation, which means these two things are happening together. It does not prove causation. We can't say for sure that one is causing the other. There's a lot more research that needs to be done to figure out that link.
So where is all this new research pointing? Well, it's pointing to these guys, mast cells. You can think of them as the sentinels of your immune system, the first responders on the scene. And what new research is finding is that when your body is dealing with widespread inflammation, these cells can basically go into overdrive.
And here is the absolute key. A lot of these mast cells hang out right next to the blood-brain barrier. So when they get activated, they just dump a flood of inflammatory chemicals into the area. And guess what one of their biggest, most powerful weapons is? You got it, our double agent, histamine.
And the consequences of that are pretty serious. In studies on mice, this flood of histamine was actually shown to damage the blood-brain barrier. You know, that critical wall that protects your brain from the rest of your body? When that barrier gets breached, it leads to inflammation in the brain and even cognitive problems. All of a sudden, we have this incredible new idea, a potential link that doesn't go from food to gut, but from the immune system directly to the brain.
And that brings us to our final big question. Maybe the whole mystery of these wide-ranging symptoms isn't about a simple intolerance to the food we eat. What if, instead, histamine is the hidden link, the key messenger molecule in a much bigger conversation happening between our gut, our immune system, and our brain? The science is just starting to figure it out, and the full answer is still unfolding.